The brilliant light of dwindling summer reflects beautifully upon the great waves that crash towards one of the great wonders of the world. Stretching the entire width of an enormous bay lies a great sea gate, a marvel to behold, and a testament to the construction skills of the Dominion. Rooker the Wayfarer is sailing his sloop with the Outlanders on board towards this massive structure. The players look and they see that there is in fact a smaller gate within the sea gate that opens to allow smaller trafficking sailing boats to enter. Only the largest galleons witness the privilege of having the great structure itself sweep open to receive them to the new world. Despite this being the closing days of summer, there is still a pleasant warmth in the air. However, when the sloop passes into the great shadow of this defensive monolith, a chill runs across the Outlanders. For a while the sloop bobs up and down in darkness as it passes through this great sea gate, and then eventually light beams as they pass onto the other side. Stretching from one side of the bay to the other, there rests a giant city. It rests upon the foundations of a long-forgotten culture, and there it gleams, golden, in the final days of summer. Landfall, the crowning glory of the new world. Hello and welcome to Performance Check. My name is Rob and this is Chapter 3 of my campaign journal. Last time, the Outlanders, Karlas the Samurai, Alden the Factotum, and Ash the Druid were able to confront a great power that had stirred within the terrifying depths of a dungeon. Inside this dungeon, they had found a site of scrying known as the Deep Window. By looking through it, you would be looking through the eyes of the drowned men who had menaced Sea Cauldron and Salt Garden and all manner of settlements that rest upon the coast of Vayrilion. After destroying the pillars that held up this intense magical power, they were able to return to Salt Garden to collect a vast sum for their reward. And after paying Rooker, the Wayfarer, they had commissioned transport to the capital. Fresh-faced and filled with wonder, the Outlanders take their first step upon the jetty and behold the hustle and bustle of the busy port that juts from the Bay of Landfall. They turn to Rooker and bid him a farewell and say they hope to meet him again one day, to which he responds with a now trademarked, "Aye." And with that, they're off into the city, looking for new opportunities and getting their bearings of the place. They are able to observe that the architecture doesn't seem to be too old, having been built within the last 100 years, but it is built upon ancient structures that had rested there once before, the foundations of a long-forgotten culture, and they take note of this. But first things first, and the thing that they always like to do when arriving in a new settlement is to secure accommodations, and they start looking. Unfortunately, they find this affair to be quite difficult. They start by looking at the taverns close to the port of Landfall, and they find that every single room is full. Why is this, they wonder? Is the city busier than it usually is? Well, the answer is yes, it actually is. The players decide that it would be best to get their bearings of this grand new settlement, so they put some money together and they purchase a map of the city. The players soon discover that Landfall is divided into many districts. First of all, there is the Bay District, where they are at the moment, filled with warehouses and shipwrights close to the nearby port. There is the Market District, filled with stalls from dozens of different cultures that sell a plethora of wares. There is the Woodman's Walk, concerned with the handling of lumber taken from the surrounding forests and woods for carpentry and construction. There is the Iron Walk, dedicated to the craft of smithing and weapon making. There is the Merchant's Quarter, inhabited with peddlers and salesmen dedicated to the shifting of wealth to the mercantile classes. There is the Court of Guilds, home to many adventurers and mercenaries looking for work and contracts, ranging from escort missions to delving into ancient structures lost in the untempered wilderness of Vayrilion. They spy the path of faith, a road flanked by shrines, churches, and cathedrals, all gathered in cooperation thanks to the congregation, the collective of civilized faith. There is the noble district, home to the incredibly wealthy upper classes, known for taking their influence in the old world and bringing it to the new. The Outlanders also hear of areas beyond the city walls, the Hills of Harvest and the Mile of Toil. They also hear rumour of a mysterious structure known as the Academy. It is said that this is where those gifted with the powers of the arcane are sent to study and hone their craft. At the very heart of the city there stands the structure around which all of Landfall has been constructed, Castle Rook Spire. Its fortifications are vast, its spires sweeping and tall. It stands as a testament to the strength of the Dominion. It is seen as a symbol of order and a bastion of civilization in a vast and uncharted land. As the players are exploring the city, they can't help but notice that there are preparations underway for some sort of celebration. Banners are being hung from buildings and archways, from trees and battlements. "You there, guard!" Carlas says, and a guard turns with a dissatisfied look upon his face and approaches. "Can I help you, citizens?" "Well, yes, actually, we were wondering what all the decorations are in aid of." "Haven't you heard? Where have you been in the last 100 years? That's what we're celebrating, the centenary of the founding of Landfall by Arthas the Explorer." "Is that so?" they say. "Looks like we've arrived just in time for a party," they all agree. "Do you know of anywhere we might be able to get a room for the next couple of days? We've checked in some of the inns and most of them seem to be busy." "Well, of course they're busy, citizens. It's the centenary celebration. Everyone has come from nearby settlements to the capital to enjoy the festivities." "Isn't there anywhere you can think of where there might be a few rooms going?" "Well, there is one place, but I wouldn't recommend it. Well, at this point, we just need somewhere to hang our caps for the evening. We are used to sleeping rough. We are used to sleeping on board a moving ship. Anywhere would be satisfactory." "Well, there is the Manticore Club. It's in the market district. You can't miss it. It's a little bit rough." "Thank you very much for your recommendation. We shall go there immediately." The players begin moving towards the market district. Since they've been taking a while to explore the city, night is beginning to fall. And sure enough, in the market district, they can hear the janky honky-tonk sounds of tavern music upon the air. They turn a corner and they see the Manticore Club. It is a run-down sort of establishment. A sign swings from one chain at a lopsided angle, and it betrays a manticore. It seems to be sat at a table playing cards with a number of other mystical creatures. They swing the doors open and they are met with a rowdy group of patrons that are slurping upon drinks and talking excitedly about the upcoming celebrations. They move to the bar. "Excuse me, might we have some rooms for the next couple of days?" "Alright, strangers, how's it going?" "I told you, it's the same barkeep in every bar or tavern in this world. Never stopping, never changing, always the same man, always there. The same man everywhere." "Yes, of course, I've got some rooms available, but they're not exactly to the highest of standards." "Yes, we've heard. We've heard that you run a very nice establishment, and we would be more than happy with any room at this point." "Well, here's the keys, and I'll provide some food for you, maybe some breakfast in the morning. That'll be 8 gold pieces each." 8 gold pieces each? They all look at each other. What on Well, the prices are getting a bit high with the centenary celebrations. Can't be helped, just the way it is. And the barkeep goes on to talk about inflation and extra expenses that he'll have to cover because of the centenary celebrations. They agree, they pay for accommodation and food, they settle at a nearby table, they have some ales brought to them, and they discuss what their next move is going to be. Well, says Ash, we've all arrived in a new world, but it seems to me like there isn't that much difference from the old. And they look as two drunken individuals start a brawl, one putting another through a table. Tankards go flying. What do we want to do now that we're here? Well, what brought you here in the first place, says Alden. Ash explains that he is on a journey of pilgrimage and that he wishes to return something of natural value to his circle of druids. Definitely not a cult. And you, Carlas, what brings you to the New World? I saw a vision, Carlas says. A vision? Says Alden, looking confused. I'm sorry, you didn't really strike me as a seer or a magic user. What do you mean a vision? I saw a vision! Carlas repeats. A vision! That were I to travel through 7 caves of darkness, I would find inner peace. You've come all this way just to find inner peace? Alden repeats. Can you have just looked in a self-help book or something? I was always taught to follow my instincts, says Carlas. And there is nothing for me back where I came from. My only hope is to travel to new lands, new horizons, and only there may I find this peace that I seek. And what exactly would grant you this peace? Alden presses. Carlas is quiet for a moment and becomes very still. Finally, he says, revenge. Okay, says Alden. Well, we'll leave that there, shall we? Let's get another drink. Hang on, says Ash. What about you, Alden? What brings you to the New World? Alden becomes undeniably shifty. He begins twiddling his thumbs, looking to the ceiling, looking into the bottom of his nearly empty tankard. He wishes to avoid the subject entirely. No, 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 says the druid. We've already said what we're searching for in this new world. What about you? You have to tell us. I don't have to tell you anything, says Alden. You absolutely do. We began sharing this information solely on the principles that we would all share. I didn't agree to that, says Alden. For God's sake, just say, all right, says Alden. I'm looking for an item of vast power. A particular item of power, or anything that just takes your fancy? Obviously, it's a particular item of power, says Alden. Stop saying item of power, Carlas interjects. Fine, fine. It's a weapon. I seek a weapon aligned with law and judgment. The final judgment, it is known as. Law and judgment. What does that mean? I seek this weapon to defend myself against a foe which, to my mind, appears to be from a different world. A different world? What foe do you speak of? I have already shared more than enough, says Alden. I don't see why I have to explain to you what brings me here. Regardless of what brings them here, they have all decided that they work quite well as a team, and so they all agree that they will be able to achieve their goals more effectively if they work as a team, because they appear to make a good one. And we still need to report to this Knight Captain Dask at Castle Rookspire, so we may take this writ of service that Emissary Darrell promised us for completing that task over on the Isle of Eris. We shall do that in the morning. Speaking of our exploits on the Isle of Eris, have any of you put more thought to the voice we heard when looking into the deep window? Ash asks. No, all he said was that we had disrupted his sight of scrying, that he had many agents operating in Varillion, and that he would be making his introduction to us personally. Sounds a little bit ominous, to say the least. It sounds ominous, true, says Carlas, but if this foe decides to introduce himself to us personally, all the better to slay him in single combat. Yep, definitely an option. So it is agreed the next morning they will visit Knight Captain Dask at Castle Rookspire to obtain their writ of service. Before they go to bed, however, Alden remembers that they had acquired a few potions from the lighthouse sunken into the caves. He gets out his alchemy equipment and performs a check to see if he can identify what these potions do. The first one is a poison, known as Bane. It is capable of administering severe negative effects upon an enemy, adding negative effects to attack rolls and saves. And then a strange silvery substance that Alden has to inspect more closely, and he is able to determine that this is a potion of quicksilver. It's not really a potion, Alden explains. It's more of an oil that you apply to a weapon. It provides any blade that you coat with this substance the properties of a silver weapon. He is also able to identify 2 Cure Light Wounds potions as well. Well, that'll be handy. Then they all bid each other goodnight, for tomorrow they have a very busy day ahead. The next morning, the Outlanders are awake bright and early, and together they move through the city once more. They pass through the marketplace, smelling the different foods that are being prepared that morning. They then turn towards the centre of the city, and before long they stand before the great walls of Castle Rook Spire. We need to find the barracks, says Alden. Where do we... Let's just ask another guard. They approach another guard. Excuse me, sorry to bother you, but we were wondering how we might get in touch with the Knight Captain Dask, Alden asks a guard politely. The guard looks at him with suspicious eyes and says, You know, not anyone can just come off the streets and speak to the Knight Captain. Do you have a particular reason? Yes, we have a particular reason. We were sent by Emissary Darrell, a high-ranking figure in the Dominion. I promise you, if you go and speak with him, he will have been alerted. The guard rolls his eyes and sends word, and eventually, after some wait, the players are admitted through the gates of Castle Rookspire. They pass through a great courtyard. The walls are staggeringly high. They see that the battlements are robust indeed. They are led through corridor after corridor until eventually a large oaken door is opened to reveal a majestic-looking office, and sat behind a great desk there is a commanding figure, Knight Captain Dask. He has salt and pepper grey hair and a fine beard, and he stares at them with piercing blue eyes. Am I to understand it that you have been sent by Emissary Darrell? Yes, that's correct. Come in, come in. Emissary Darrell dispatched you with a writ to Salt Garden. That's the long and short of it, says Alden. There were some complications, however. They then proceed to tell Knight Captain Dask everything. About the deep window, about the drowned men, and about the mysterious voice that had threatened them when they had dispelled the vile magic within. Then you are far more deserving of this writ of service than I had given you credit for. I did think that it was a generous offer by the emissary, but regardless, it is yours. This, and he gives a flick of his quill upon this writ of service, this entitles you to contracts that will be provided by the Dominion. I have one waiting, if that is of interest to you. Well, we're always looking for new opportunities. What would you ask of us? Alden says politely. As you might have guessed, the centenary celebrations begin in a day's time. This is why many men have been drafted from the surrounding settlements of Vayrilion and brought to the capital. Are you expecting some kind of trouble? Carlos asks. Not trouble exactly, but with the celebrations, extra security is in order. Rather frustratingly, most of my men have been asked to hold vigil over the celebrations and festivities. But that does mean that certain other duties are being overlooked for the time being. This is something I can't abide, and so I would gladly enlist your services, from what I hear you are capable, to deal with a problem that has been growing in the heart of this city. What would you ask of us? You might have noticed that this city is constructed upon ancient foundations. Well, within those foundations lies an undercity crawling with criminal activity. It is a cesspit, a hive of scum and villainy, and from it many criminal organizations have flourished. Not least of all, the Denark family. These criminals, this Denark family, distribute illegal wares and narcotic herbs throughout the city. They traffic their goods here and there, and I imagine they feel rather secure in the knowledge that my men will be busy dealing with the centenary celebrations. What better time is there to strike them hard? This Denark family are particularly notorious for their industrious production of a herb known as knave's leaf, a powerful drug that addles the mind with whim and fancy. They currently operate from a wretched tavern known as the Leaky Tap towards the Bane district, and there they have been trafficking knave's leaf throughout the city. If the guard of the Dominion are to be seen singling out a criminal family, the others will rise up in retribution. That is where you come in, for you grant us plausible deniability. It is a mystery how the Denark family are able to produce and distribute such a vast amount of this noxious herb. But this mystery will soon be a thing of the past. Go to the Leaky Tap, discover how they distribute this drug, and bring an end to their production. The players look to each other and they all agree that this will be a great contract to get started on. Not only does it keep them within the borders of the city, but they're dealing with drug peddlers. They've just faced the diabolical horde of drowned men. This should be child's play. There is the matter of payment to discuss, says Alden. Now, we have the going rate of... You will be paid 300 gold pieces each. This is non-negotiable. Alden tries to negotiate, and he tries the same trick that he performed upon the Elderman Assault Garden. But Knight Captain Dask is having none of it. He looks at him stony face and says 300 gold pieces, and that is the final offer. The players ask the Knight Captain what will be done about the attacks across the Isle of Eris. The Knight Captain assures them that he will report this transgression to the higher-ups, his commander, but they suspect that any action towards this will be mired by the centenary celebrations. The Outlanders move back through the city, past all the preparations being made for the centenary celebrations, through the market district, back to the Bay district, where they had arrived at Landfall, and it does not take them long to find the Leaky Tap. It is a ruinous, despicable-looking place. There is grime that covers the ground beneath the door, and a thin layer of smoke appears to exude from the windows. It's at this point that we go to the map so the players can see the area so they can work out how best to approach the tavern. They make note of the front door at the top of some stone steps, and on either side of the tavern there appears to be an alleyway. First of all, they look down the right-hand side and they see a gate that appears to be guarded by two heavy-set, thuggish-looking individuals. They then look down the right-hand side and see another gate that doesn't appear to be guarded. Let's try the front door first, says Ash. Let's just go in and see what's inside. As they enter, they are met with the foul stench of acrid smoke and stale liquor, and immediately every single patron within this tavern turns to behold them. I don't know if you've ever walked into a local tavern, pub or bar and be the only person who isn't a local in this place. Well, that's exactly what's happened here. They look at these outsiders with great suspicion. The three players inconspicuously make their way towards the bar. "Alright, strangers. How's it going?" It's the same guy, but he just seems a bit more evil. "Yes, we would very much like some directions," says Alden. "Directions?" "Yes, we would like some directions, please." "Well, where do you want to go?" "We're looking to go to the Leaky Tap," Alden says without thinking. The barkeep just stares at him for a moment. "You're already in the bleeding Leaky Tap." "Oh, well, that's good, isn't it? Let's order a round of drinks, please." "What kind of drinks?" "Ale, please, if it's not too much trouble. Just some ale." The three players awkwardly consume their drinks in silence whilst everyone watches. They look around and the players ask if they spot anything suspicious, and I inform them that basically everyone and everything in here looks suspicious, but nothing that has been described by Knight Captain Dask. There's no sign of Knave's Leap anywhere. They see that there is a staircase that leads beneath the tavern. With the amount of patrons in here that appear to be staring daggers at them, they decide that approaching it probably wouldn't be the best idea. They do note that there is a set of double doors on the far side of the tavern, but again, they daren't go deeper into the establishment. They awkwardly finish their drinks and say, "Those were nice ales. Bye." They then leave the tavern with their tails between their legs. "But that was great, wasn't it?" says Carlas. "What are we going to do? Let's just go around the alleyway, for Christ's sake." Carlas looks to the other two. "I can't help but feel we may have just aroused their suspicions rather than find anything useful within there." "We'll just have to be extra careful," says Alden, desperately trying to make the best of the situation. "Let's check out those alleyways." "Not the one that's guarded by the thugs, the other one." They look down the left-hand side and they see again it's still not guarded, so they approach. Alden uses a lockpick and opens the gate. The far end of this alleyway, they see what looks to be a raised section of decking, and upon it there is another thuggish-looking individual who's leaning against the barrel and smoking a pipe. "Right, we're going to approach this stealthily. It's time for some subterfuge." Carlas immediately springs into action, charging down the alleyway. He has something called Travel Devotion, which increases his speed 1 time per day, and he uses it to great effect. He closes the distance and draws his blade, cutting the thug down in one. "Oh my god," says Alden. What? Wait!" "You said subterfuge," says Carlas. "I killed him before he could scream." The Outlanders look down the back of the tavern now and they see a single window. They decide that it will be best to crouch beneath it to pass by. As they do so, they can't help but notice that this peers into the room behind those double doors that I described earlier, and inside there appears to be a meeting held at a long table. There appear to be some well-to-do individuals talking in hushed whispers. At the head of the table there is a large, bold man. He has rings on each of his fingers and his collar is lined with rich fur. He addresses all assembled and says, "I'm sick and tired of Zorda Scolorus threatening us and our enterprise. We should have Daedalus pay her a little visit. He'd deal with her, no problem." A stern-looking woman at the far end of the table responds, "We will not send Daedalus anywhere. His condition means he is suited to the sewers, and that is where he must stay. Where he is effective, where he is needed." Before the players have a chance to listen in any further, they are alerted to a sound coming from further down the alley at the back of the tavern. They appear from behind the crates that they hide behind, and they see another thuggish-looking man. They look carefully, only to discover that the man appears to be relieving himself against a wall. "It's the pissing yard," says Alden. "This is an opportunity," says Alden. "I've been working on something for just this occasion." Carlas and Ash look to each other and then back to Alden as the factotum straightens up, rolls his shoulders, and walks plain as day towards the thug, stands next to him, undoes his flies, and pretends to relieve himself also. The thug looks. Alden just gives a nod before wheeling around with an outstretched palm, delivers a magic missile to the man's chest, and he yells, "Cock magic!" The man falls dead. Carlas and Ash cannot believe their eyes. The deception has been enough to subdue the man. He basically just turns around with his flies undone, yells "cock magic" and fires a magic missile at him. This is this is what I have to deal with. Regardless, it kills the thug. They've only got a couple of HP. However, the noise of him being hit by a magic missile, killed before he hits the ground, and then collapses into like barrels and crates. All the noise, all the palaver is enough to alert another thug who yells, "Alert! Intruders!" Ash reaches forth and casts his trusty entangle spell, and Carlos just comes in with a downward swipe with the katana. The other thug falls down. They've cleared the alleyways behind the tavern. They peer around the corner and they see a trap door that leads beneath the Leaky Tap. They descend into the cellar level of the tavern, and they are quick in dispatching a number of other thugs that await them. One tries to surprise them by firing a crossbow from around the corner, but Carlos is there within a flash, bringing his sword in a arcing cut upwards, and this man collapses back against the wall and slides down in a quickly growing pool of his own blood. They arrive at a door further down the corridor and they feel a heat radiating from it. Carlos delivers a swift boot to the door. An astonishing sight is revealed to them. They see a chamber completely filled with giant plants. Great crops of knave's leaf are growing all about the place. They see that there is an individual in the centre of the room tending this crop. This half-elf turns and says, "Whoa, guys! Take it easy!" "Who are you?" says Ash. "My name's Zach. I'm here to help grow this crop." "What am I talking about? I'm a prisoner! Help me! Help me!" Don't mind me saying, but Zach's a bit of a funny name for a half-elf, isn't it? "Who are you to judge my name?" says Zach. "Zach, it's short for Zakasa, my elven name." They look at this half-elf and they see he is chained to a post at the centre of this room. Jesse Pinkman style from Breaking Bad is given enough slack so he can move around the room and tend to the enormous amount of narcotics within. "I'm a druid, exiled from the Circle of Shepherds. I was captured and brought here so they could use my skills to help grow their crop at a profitable rate." Ash is particularly pleased to meet another person who shares gifts like he has. After a brief discussion, it is agreed that if they release Zakasa, he will show them where to find the Circle of Shepherds. Ash decides that he wishes to meet this order. They do ask why Zakasa was exiled from the Circle. Begrudgingly, he admits, "I was developing my own enterprise. I was growing these plants to sell to people." And they thought that was bad? "Yeah, man, I was using my abilities to profit, and they didn't like that one bit." What can you tell us about the rest of this place? Are there any more of those thugs down here? "Yeah, man, they're in the next room." "Well, should we be keeping our voices down then?" says Ash, suddenly alarmed. "Oh, yeah, right, maybe." "Stay here," says Carlos. "We're gonna have a look." Zakasa points to the chains that bind him here. "Well, I'm not exactly going anywhere, am I?" The three Outlanders fling open the doors on the far side of the chamber. The true nature of this operation is revealed to them. They see that this cellar has been broken through into the sewers of this area of the city. A canal runs through the far side of the room, and next to it, piled up high, are great barrels filled with maize leaf. But before them, there are more thugs. And at their head, there stands a scrawny individual. He is balding with great tufts of hair coming out the sides of his head. He has buck teeth and a general look of ill will about him. "You! What brings you here? Why do you interrupt our operation?" That's a funny noise you're making there. "What do you mean?" the man says. That clicking noise. We should introduce ourselves. My name is Alden Remelstein. This is my associate, Ashbourne Briar, and my other associate, Carlos Ungerleider. The peculiar-looking man darts a look at each of the Outlanders. "My name is Daedalus Denark. It is a pleasure to meet your acquaintance. But I'm afraid to say it does not matter who you are. To me, you are only intruders. And intruders pay with their lives." "Daedalus, we heard someone talking about you upstairs," says Ash. "Yeah, they said that your condition means that you are best suited to the sewers." What do they mean by that? To their horror, Daedalus Denark begins to transform. His shoulders pop with a crunch. His entire physiology begins to change. Hair growing out from all different parts of his body. A long, skin-coloured tail erupts from his tailbone. Before them stands a terrifying were-rat. It has always been Daedalus Denarch's job to traffic drugs throughout the sewers of Landfall. That is how they've been evading the eyes of the Dominion Guard. But during an unfortunate day in the sewers, Daedalus Denarch contracted lycanthropy from a were-rat, and ever since he's been confined to this task. "Pest control," says Carlas, readying his blade. "Roll initiative." Daedalus, the were-rat, goes first. He charges at the players, but then unexpectedly leaps onto the side of the wall, runs across it, and then bounces from it, hitting Carlas square in the chest. They both go tumbling to the ground. The thugs surrounding Daedalus produce cudgels and charge at the Outlanders. One swings wildly at Alden, who is able to parry with his rapier. Another smacks Ash hard across the side of the neck. Carlas is able to untangle himself from the were-rat's clawing grasp, and he draws his blade. However, the katana is not effective against the were-rat. The blade simply bounces off this terrifying creature's hide. Ash looks upon the were-rat wide-eyed, but then he summons his courage and he says, "True lycanthropy bears the mark of the wolf." There is an eruption of druidic power, and from nowhere bursts a green-bound wolf from the wilds. This wolf looks about with blazing green eyes, focuses upon a thug, and charges him. The wolf is able to make a successful attack, which means it gets an automatic tackle attempt. The wolf drags the thug to the ground and tears his throat out with its giant teeth. As Alden was able to parry the strike from the thug, he then counterattacks, slicing the man's leg, and as the brute falls, he is able to uppercut with his rapier, cutting the man's throat. Yet while he is busy doing this, another thug swings a hard plank of wood with a nail driven through it, right into the factotum's jaw. The were-rat skitters back on its haunches, and then launches itself at Carlas once again. The samurai brings his blade in an uppercut, but he swings and misses wildly. The were-rat clamps onto Carlas's arm and bites deep into his flesh. Ash the Druid reaches forth with his brand new dark wood staff and casts Entangle once again. Vines erupt from the ground and twist around the remaining thugs. The were-rat, however, is far too dexterous and bounces away from the grasping claws of the vines. Despite being entangled, the thug with the naily plank is still too close to Alden, and he raises his vicious-looking weapon once again. Alden, in panic, just reaches out his palm, and once again, out of pure instinct, channeling Arcane Dilettante, is able to cast a magic missile. It hits the thug square in the chest, and he crumbles back, smashing into barrels. His clothing is singed and caught ablaze by the magical blast, and that fire travels to the knave's leaf. Suddenly the herb is ablaze, and noxious fumes begin filling the room. The green-bound wolf then collides into the side of the were-rat, and the two beasts fall into a frenzy of claws and teeth. The were-rat is able to pull itself from the jaws of the green-bound wolf, and uses its opportunity attack to slice at Alden as he attempts a retreat. Alden falls below zero and crashes to the ground, once again blood pouring from him. But this allows Carlas the time to have a moment of inspiration himself. His mind goes back to the potions that Alden had managed to identify. Quicksilver. It will provide his weapon with the properties of a silver blade. Quick as a flash, he's able to pull the quicksilver from his belongings, smash the base of his blade to it, and draw the length of the katana through it. The were-rat turns around hissing and leaps at the samurai once again, but this time Carlas is ready. The head of the were-rat sails from its body, and the beast is done. Ash rushes to Alden's side and is able to revive him. He was knocked exactly to zero. With the were-rat destroyed, the rest of the thugs are easily dispatched, and the Outlanders look as the knave's leaf, the crop at least next to the canal, go up in flames. Noxious fumes still fill the rooms and they all feel a little lightheaded, but strangely, a bit more relaxed as well. They move back into the room from before and are able to free Zakasa, the druid, and he is true to his word. He shows them upon their map where they can locate this circle of shepherds.
You'll want to speak to Beta. He is the chief druid of the circle. He is the one that exiled me, so maybe leave my name out of conversation, huh? I'm gonna go and make my own way now. Thank you for releasing me. One day I'll have to repay this debt. But for now, I'm getting out of here.
The Outlanders were tasked with ending the production of the Knave's Leaf, and without the druid to artificially grow them here, the crop will no longer be able to be produced. They are able to stealthily leave the way they came, without arousing the suspicions of those in the tavern above. They move quickly, however, for the flames continue to grow, and it will not be long before the rest of the Denark family and the patrons in the tavern are alerted to the catastrophe in the cellar beneath. The players return to receive their payments from Knight Captain Dask, and then they decide that they're going to enjoy some downtime and enjoy the festivities of the centenary celebrations the following day. Meanwhile, far beyond the walls of Landfall, deep within the wilderness and atop a high mountain, there stands a tower. Its entrance is blocked with a mighty boulder. Above the tower, roiling thunder clouds begin to gather, and suddenly an arc of lightning descends upon high, shattering this boulder. The vault of Skycleave is now open to the world. And that concludes Chapter 3 of the campaign journal. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Next time, the players will be enjoying the festivities of the centenary celebrations. But not all is as it seems as the party begins. We shall also learn more about the mysterious Tower of Skycleave, and what the players will want to find within its dark depths. Thanks for watching, and I hope that all of your performances are up to standard.